Just like in the movies.
Welcome to SuperWonder Legacy. I am Jared. I'm here with Brit. What's up, Brit?
Hello, hello.
And today we are discussing the backgrounds of Superman and Wonder Woman. First off, what's up, Cameron? How you doing? And so for this one of the points that I always hear from detractors and Wonder Bat promoters, I have to say that for a reason, is that the reason why Super Wonder doesn't work is because of their backgrounds, how she's like a princess and he's more like a farmer and stuff. And a princess should be with her prince. Britt, isn't that the most cringe excuse ever?
It's very shallow, or even with the Clovis fans, the Clark's a farm boy and Lois is a city girl. I mean I honestly that works in some instances. You're trying to contrast the characters, opposites attract type thing. However, it just feels like you're reducing them to something that they're not, like in a negative term.
Exactly.
Especially Clark and Diana. Clark, he isn't just a farm boy. He isn't, this big galoot that just, this Western country boy that doesn't know anything. Diana isn't this snooty, uptight princess. So reducing them to such, and it's the fact that they say that Clark and Diana's relationship is shallow sometimes. And it's kind of like, how? But then you want them to be just as shallow, or actually shallow when you're trying to prop up Wonder Bat or Chloe's.
Yeah, exactly. And what's up, Daniel? Daniel says, hey, guys. Well, I vote that Diana becomes the next Mrs. Kent. We all vote that. Cameron says, Wonder Bat is also classist idea that only rich people can get together. That's the other thing. That's assuming the fact that Wonder Woman cares about, riches and stuff, which she never has. That's part of why she leaves the frickin' island.
Right. I mean, just the fact of saying that she first of all, they don't know her mission. Diana's mission is all about culture. And they take that away when you just think that, oh, she just wants, the Amazons just want to fight and just want to be warriors, just looking for, this war to, go happy go lucky beheading people. That's another thing. And yeah, thinking that Diana likes the luxury type things, the diamonds or something like that. She's not Selena. She's not a Selena light or anything like that. So trying to make it seem like Diana loves going to the parties, the or some type of charity event and acting like she wants to dress up in a way and be on the arm of Bruce or something like that. No, that's not her.
Yeah, in fact, what's kind of funny, remember in the Sewell book where she makes that joke? She goes, "Oh, Clark, if I wanted smooth, I'd be with Hal Jordan." She didn't say Bruce Wayne, but I love that joke.
Yeah, because how, I mean, Hal does make a fool of himself trying to smooth talk and, the corny jokes or whatever. And Clark, out of nervousness or whatever. And I love how Charles tried to portray that as him trying to have that sort of suave type talk. And Diana's like, no, don't do that. I like you for who you are.
Yeah. Anyway, Britt, it's become my mission to make you a Hal Jordan fan. And it's working, I would have to say.
I like how he's the womanizer part is funny. It's funny, but
it's not true though. That's the thing.
It's not. I would say that New 52 and the animation did make that a little bit of a thing for him, but it's actually funny. So I will give that that's something that I like. When we put it in our stories or me individually, it's kind of have him be that awkward, sort of try to get the boys to do, stupid stuff.
Yeah,
But
and by the way, so the only part where he is a womanizer in the new 52 is in the Justice League book, Volume 1. After that, he's not that in the book.
yeah. And then, but he's very much head over heels for Carol, and that is
Yep.
so sweet.
Yep.
Being,
Very much so.
childhood best friends. That's real
More
nice.
on that possibly in a future episode, may even be one that's coming up. So anyway, so Daniel says, despite being a culture of warriors, the Amazons have to farm their food, to forge their weapons, to sew their clothes. Diana also has to have all the training, even being the queen's daughter. Yeah, that's what people forget about the Amazons, that they're warriors for sure, but there's more to Amazonian culture than warfare, at least the DC Comics version of the Amazons.
Well, geez, Daniel, you just basically summed up what we are arguing as well.
Well, we're going to be spending about 2.5 to 3 hours talking about
exactly, and that's exactly right. The Amazons aren't just warriors; they aren't just training to fight. They are with well, that's going forward, but with literature, with arts, with culture, and like you said, agriculture as well. That's a big part of the Amazons, and for that to be ignored, so often, it really shows how DC and writers really don't care for Wonder Woman, and they don't, like, they want to
Here's the thing,
simplify
Brit.
her. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you know what they have with the Amazons, Brit? That DC has their version of the 300 Spartans. The Amazons are way less barbaric. So you could just because if they did like an Amazons movie, part of that has to be like 300, but but you can also add in the more peaceful version. That's what I'm hoping Paradise Lost, if it comes out, is that they have the 300, they have like 300 style, but also more of like showing the more peaceful side of Amazons.
Really saying if it comes out, that is.
I have to say that with all of the DC projects because I'm not sure if they're going to come out. But speaking of Amazons, I just want to say I finally read Historia, and I gotta say that was actually, the art is superb in that book.
Yes.
Will Jimenez, much the gif of the pen that's on fire. That's what that is.
Yeah, I mean, the art it really shows how grand Diana's world is, and the designs for the gods as well.
Yeah, exactly. Because I wasn't a big fan of the way the new 52 had them, particularly how they made Athena just a human owl. But these ones I think made a little more sense. Yeah, that's the one thing I like a lot of the Brian Azzarello run, but those designs were a little bit much. Like Hades being a kid with a candle head.
Yeah, I think I'm not sure what the purpose of the designs for New 52 was, and it's the fact I think he wanted to be like human a little bit, but at the same time have that mythical type look.
Mm-hmm.
But it really gave, I think that is why New 52 is kind of like labeled as an Elseworld, because it kind of felt that way.
Well, hey, it kind of can be, because no other DC characters show up in that freaking run. It's really frustrating because I'm like, there is such potential because she's dating Clark. You would think he would show up, or it's like maybe Aquaman would show up when she's dealing with Poseidon, but no. But
well,
anyway,
that's the thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, that's the thing, is that Azzarello was basically being stingy, and he basically said he didn't want anyone else in the book. So even with her relationship with Clark, it was like, well, first he wanted to ship her with Orion, or
Oh, God.
and the way that he wrote him, though, like very sexist and calling her
Like
legs
where
and
he
stuff
called her
like that.
legs. Yeah. I
Yeah,
was like,
it was
no.
like, yeah, it was kind of like, why would you want to put Diana in that type of relationship? And but then I think he wanted to mirror, how Hippolyta and Zeus was, but it's kind of like, no, you don't want to mirror
That's not
that
something you want
relationship.
to. That's not something you
Exactly.
want to mirror.
What you want to show the total opposite, which is her relationship with Clark, because Clark and Zeus are practically, yeah, on the same level of, power, but Clark isn't, you know, um, he doesn't abuse his power.
Exactly.
He's respectful and everything like that.
By the way, speaking of Clark, QT Comics says the Amazons would love crypto. Yeah, particularly a culture
Yes,
that's very much into like animals, and I believe it's you and Hellaker. I think do a lot of always put in there where like the Amazons meet crypto over
yes,
heels.
especially the direwolf
Yeah, I like the
cryptocurrency is,
wolf version of crypto.
yes, that one is because he's so big and
Mhm.
he seems like he fits within, the Amazons and just that world of big beastly animals.
Yeah, exactly. So here are the backgrounds. Superman is a farm boy from Kansas who grew up and discovered he had Kryptonian heritage. That's in a nutshell. He's a farm boy.
Right.
Diana is the princess on an island society of warrior women who showed up in man's world because a human pilot who, don't worry, we'll be talking about the awesome death of Steve Trevor later. I have to because I am still on the high from that.
Oh my God.
And then her royal nature compared to Clark's humble background is a common point detractors try and make with that. But the thing is, it's like, again, whenever anyone brings up that like they're incompatible because she's a princess and stuff, and I'm like, just tell me you haven't read Wonder Woman comics. Just tell me that.
Yeah, you definitely haven't read Wonder Woman. I would say with the Superman side, it's very much editorial driven because of the status quo and trying to, like, if you can't have Diana reduced, I would say, as like the damsel or um just really showing that Clark is like the main hero, then it seems like they're intimidated by her. And Tomasi did admit that it was difficult with writing their book because Diana demanded the spotlight. And it's like, well, duh, she is
She's
part
Wonder
of the,
Woman. What are you
yeah,
talking
she's
about?
Wonder Woman. She's 50% of the title. So it's like, yeah, she is supposed to have the spotlight. Um, but
But
the,
yeah, go ahead.
oh, I was gonna say, but the fact that the editors of Superman, it just really shows how they don't have this respect, I would say, for powerful female characters.
No, they do
They
not.
they
In
want
fact, what does it say that like part of the promotional material for that new Black Canary book is her just being punched in the face?
really.
Well, look at all the images that have shown up for that Tom King Black Canary book.
Well, honestly, her book is basically like her fighting, and I mean, even Tom King's Wonder Woman is he's trying to like give himself a competition of Perez, but he's doing the total opposite.
In that case, it's a layup for Perez. Oh my gosh.
I mean, he with Trinity and Lizzie, um, it's like her story is based on fathers more than a mother. Like whoever, whatever her uh, existence, however it comes about, it's like he ruined the Amazons because at first he has, this rogue Amazon killing uh people in a
In a bar.
bar, and then she's on the run, but we haven't seen her. We don't know her story. And then you have Diana where she acts like she doesn't really care about her Amazon sisters that have been in prison, that have been taken away from their families, that have been killed, you know. And then she's all of a sudden romancing Steve out of nowhere, and now she acts like she wants to be a mother out of nowhere. But Trinity's
A lot
story,
of this run is out of nowhere, Brit.
yeah, but Trinity's story is based around who is her father. And it's kind of like, if you're making it like trying to big up Steve, you're doing a terrible job. But
More on that
Wonder
at the end
Woman's
of this
story,
episode, because trust me,
right?
we will be addressing that, and
But
I will be laughing.
Wonder Woman's story is not about
Mhm.
Steve, or is not about having a father. I mean, that
Mm-mm.
is the one thing that was wrong with New 52, was really drilling in, Zeus as her father. And it was kind of like, what it could have been better at is really strengthening her relationship with Hippolyta, to
Yeah.
show that despite, how you came about as existing, you know, I prayed for you, but Zeus, had an affair, but that means nothing when you have this strong mother and daughter bond. Tom King, it seems like he's doing the total opposite, because I think it's alluded that Diana is basically like Mother Dearest, and she's mean and kind of like distant or something like that. So it's
Watch.
kind of like,
He's gonna basically try to pull what Brian Hitch did in Rebirth, but do it worse.
that's how it feels. Definitely, that's definitely how
It's
it
like,
feels.
remember where Tom King legit copied Immortal Beloved, and
Yeah,
it seems like he's doing that. Or except at least in that one, it was like Wonder Woman died, so it's not like she could be there. But with this one, it's like, no, she's there. I'm just like, anyway, more on that later. So let's go into Clark's origin, because oh, and by the way, as we transition to Clark's origin, Daniel brings up another good point. He says, that's another huge difference between how Diana and Lois respect and see Clark. While Lois mocks and laughs about Clark's background, Diana values the hard work and nature. Yeah, exactly.
exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there you go. And yeah, and that's the thing about this. And Britt and I were talking before we went live, and one of the things that like some people forget about Superman, the dude is wicked smart.
Yes, he he's an alien. I mean, regardless of anything, if he, you would think that, like, I see some fans say that he doesn't look like, obviously doesn't look like an alien like Martian Manhunter. And I just feel like that, of course, very much is rooted in xenophobia. I mean, just because Clark doesn't look like an alien, he can pass as a human, pass as an American, that just takes away his DNA or something like that. No,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't. And that really speaks to how people have been in real society, is if you are um biracial or something, you can pass as whichever, race that your family comes from. And there's so many people that do that and feel like whichever race, or family that I feel, I guess I have more of an advantage of within society, that's who I'm going to lean on, and then neglect this other side and reject it and feel ashamed of it. And that's something that people don't need to do. You know, who you are is who you are, but, and flaws and all, you know,
Yeah,
and for
that's the way
you
it works.
and for you to take a character that is supposed to be inspirational for children, that, mostly for children, and give them that message, to reject part of who you are, or mostly of who you are, and pass in mental gymnastics and all of that for acceptance for another, from another society. That is pretty much why, some kids grow up to be, um, to feel like antisocial, or to feel this certain self-esteem issues and stuff like that. You aren't supposed to teach kids that, just as a parent, as a friend, as a teacher, and you aren't supposed to put that message out there with characters that the children might be watching.
Exactly. Cameron says, I saw a Reddit comment that literally says Superman should not be interested in Krypton. It's gone. Let it stay dead. No need to bring it back or have him be interested. He's an American through and through. Well, if he's an American, then why isn't he like Homelander and wear the American flag? Because what people forget is that the current iteration of Superman from Byrne and on is that's a Kryptonian glyph. That's what it is. It's the Kryptonian symbol for hope. So he might as well not be Superman then. He might as well not have the Fortress of Solitude then. I mean, the amount of stuff that you would have to take away if he were to completely separate himself from his Kryptonian heritage is staggering.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, okay, so you're saying that, I mean, why does he wear the S on his chest then? You
Hmm?
know,
Yeah.
if that is the symbol of the House of L, why does he wear it? Why is he using the powers that he was granted from Krypton then? So you might as well just say, okay, so he is just Clark Kent and he got powers, I don't know, a meteor struck him or something. Um, or or he drank some milk from a contaminated
He
cow.
drank super milk.
Something like that in order for him to get powers. But instead his story is a refugee story, an immigrant story. And you
Yeah.
want to take that away. That's essentially what you're doing. You're taking that away. And he's
Yeah.
also a Moses allegory. So you are taking away every part of who Superman is, why he was created, and you're just tossing it away because you want him to be this this American symbol. And that is, if you want to say the American way is not what it used to be. Of how it's supposed to be, bringing in diversity, bringing people, um, from these different cultures together. But
Well, not only
now,
that, here's the thing, and the DC documentary tells us this that Siegel and Schuster, when they formulated the way Superman is, one of the purposes was he's the immigrant, like you said, and the way that, like you said, the way the American way is supposed to be when it comes to immigrants is you show up, you bring what's great about your culture with you and integrate it, and then essentially use what you are for the betterment of everyone. Use what makes your
mhm,
culture unique, not ignore it.
right. But again, thank you, John Byrne,
Oh,
for for essentially what he wanted for Superman is to make him Peter Parker and marvelize Superman. But the thing is, Superman should not be have been marvelized at
no.
all. Because it pretty much has backfired because now Marvel characters are humans that try to be like gods, or they embrace their uniqueness and diversity. The X-Men, we see how um they deal with the themes of xenophobia and how yes, it is quite flawed though, but how they do embrace who they are, but they go through the struggles, but at the same time they rejoice in their powers and things like that. And especially like Storm, how she is the grand symbol of this powerful being who is a goddess, but she is the most down to earth and motherly type character. And that is how, or Clark in a father figure way, or big brother, uncle type way, and Diana in the motherly type way, is supposed to be written, like that. Instead, they are belittled. They are they act robotic, as they or like they're leashed or something to Lois and Steve, and they can't function. If you want them to have humanity or be human, they aren't supposed to act like that, man. They aren't supposed to act like they need someone to handhold them. to function properly. And Clark, I mean, he can have the Kents. They are very essential to him and what he was taught, taking care of him, as that didn't send him off to the government to become an experiment or anything like that. But he's more than the farm boy, though.
Exactly.
He's still the son of a scientist, and that needs to be more you know more put forth, like the New 52. The New 52,
Yep.
with all its flaws, the New 52 really showed how to balance Clark being the champion of the oppressed, going against the government, bringing back the golden age. He was very much rooted in being proud to be from Smallville. He loved his hometown, but at the same time, he honored his heritage as a Kryptonian, and he was able to speak Kryptonian. He wanted to actually learn of his Kryptonian heritage. That is how you put that all together for him to be a well-rounded character. You don't dilute him and, the whole mental gymnastics of, I'm just human. I'll name my son after an abusive, xenophobic military man who hated me, to make myself feel human. I'll marry a
Mm-hmm.
human to pretend, keep this facade up that I, am human. No, that's not the way to go.
Exactly. That definitely not the way to go with this. But I love this image of New 52 Clark where he reads every medical journal ever published, and all of a sudden you can he's like, okay, I'm gonna perform a surgery. Let's go. Oh, Daniel says, question: Lara Lorvan is canonically described as brunette or blonde? I think brunette, right?
She's brunette. And
Yeah.
no. They go back and forth with this. In
Mm-hmm.
New 52, she was brunette, which I prefer.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Blonde, I would say, is mostly kind of like, um, that is post-crisis.
Mm-hmm.
But pre-crisis and New 52, of course, she was a brunette.
Okay, I see. Well, she looks a lot like she's a ginger in this image here.
Well, it depends on the coloring too.
Ah,
You
okay, I
know,
see. I get. What about Chris Kent? Can he have blonde hair or brown hair? Which one do you prefer? Who is Chris Kent again?
that is Zod and
Oh, Zod's kid.
yeah.
I mean, it just depends on. I don't know. It's not. He's not really relevant to this particular phase of discussion. But I see what you're bringing up there, Tavia. But in terms of like, yeah, but it always bothered me. That's why I kind of don't read a lot of post-crisis Superman, because I'm not interested in hearing Superman say being human all the way is awesome. Here's the thing, and I said this in the last comics talk episode I put out. The thing about Superman, the reason why you can't marvelize the DC characters and it to work is because, like you said, Marvel's thing is that their guys are like men that want to be gods. Let's say that. DC's are the gods amongst men. They're not necessarily trying to be human, but they're trying to exist alongside humans. And the
That's
thing about,
exactly.
real quick, the thing about
Hmm.
Superman is he particularly is the ideal that everyone strives to be. If you take that away from him by trying to bring him to down to earth, you lose his purpose for existing.
Exactly. He isn't supposed to conform to society ways. That's exactly like you said before the show. His purpose was to be better, was to move forward. I mean, his whole marquee is the man of tomorrow. How can he be the man of tomorrow when he's stagnant in today, or even go back
Yesterday.
to yesterday?
Yeah,
Um,
well, it's like even Snyder got that when he had he literally had Jor-El say, "You will, they will stumble, they will fall, but they will rise behind you, Cal. They will join you in the sun eventually." So I'm like, yeah, there you go. He's supposed to be the inspiration.
and also, even in Throne of Atlantis, the animated version, where Diana, was thinking that sh being a human, with the disguise, he says not it's not being one of them as a human, it's just existing, blending in. And that's what it is. We all blend in as different cultures, different races, ethnicities, and everything like that. It's just blending in, and it's not being someone else. So why is it that DC is so focused on making these very unique and inspirational characters all the same?
Because
Why are
here's
you
why,
jumping?
Brit. When Marvel succeeds or has the appearance of succeeding, because trust me when I tell you Marvel is falling apart, but when they have the appearance of succeeding, DC copies what they do. Hell, the Absolute Universe is basically their version of the Ultimate Universe. So
Yes,
basically,
true.
it's so what it is that it's been said that like Marvel dictates how the comic book industry goes because they are the leader. They are the industry leader unjustifiably, but still, my point is like they'll go, okay, so Marvel brings the characters down to earth. How about we do that with DC? And they don't realize that then they might as well just merge with Marvel and put the Marvel ban on everything because then it ceases to be DC. Even Batman is in some ways a god of knowledge, hence Darkseid War.
Yeah, but I mean, with chasing, exactly, they are chasing Marvel with ideas. Even John Kent, his existence is because they wanted a Miles Morales. And
Yeah, and that didn't work.
definitely not. Um, you want, like I said earlier, you want Superman to become Spider-Man. But the thing is, with Spider-Man, is either way, whether he's with Mary Jane or not, the book is still going to sell. You know, controversial or anything, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly.
Spider-Man is going to sell. He has better movies and everything else outside of that. Superman is struggling within multiple mediums.
Which
Um,
is why, again, which is why I keep out. Because if Superman doesn't work, it's not good. It's a lot of those projects aren't coming out. But even with that, see, the thing about Miles is that when he was first introduced, he was not the iconic character he was today. What made him the iconic character was that movie, that Spider-Verse movie, justifiably so, because that movie was awesome. And compare it this way, Britt. When they gave, here's how you know that one character has more potential than the other. They gave John Kent a movie in that Super Sons movie, and it flopped. Where if you get
yeah,
and because I think that was their thing. Let's see if we can elevate John's character with a movie like Marvel did. Where when you give Miles Morales a movie, it dramatically elevated his character, like dramatically.
yeah. And who else? I mean, even with DCU
Mm-hmm.
and how um Gunn is formulating uh formulating all. It
Mm-hmm.
just seems like again, DC or Zaslav is trying to chase the early years of the MCU.
And he
You
even
know
said that.
how oh he did, and how they want. Well, Gunn is already very much biased towards the Z-listers already. With Marvel though, they've set up like their big characters. They have five Avengers movies. They've set them up and they have transitioned and everything, and now they are at the young Avenger stage. It feels like, or seems like that is what um DC is trying to do with guns starting in the middle of everything. I mean, the Batman Brave and the Bold movie is supposed to already have Damian and the Bat family established, you know. Um, Superman is still in his early years, though. I
Mm-hmm.
guess I don't know. I don't even know what that even means when you're starting in the middle, but Superman is still in his early years. I don't know what that means. Um, you
And
have
the whole idea about how there are other superheroes before Superman, that doesn't necessarily work that well because here's the thing: Superman's supposed to be the inspiration behind a lot of other characters coming out as superheroes, if you will, for lack of a better term. That's what Snyder did well. But anyway, moving. By the way, it's exactly why I never touched the DCEU. I knew from the start all they were going to do was a desperate. That's not okay, Luffy. The Zack movies are not that, but the other ones definitely are. That's what I'm just gonna tell you right there. Like
the
Man of Steel up until I'd say like Aquaman, it's not the MCU.
yeah, the after Zach left, though the films afterwards, the sequels basically, those are the ones that they try to, or Justice League. Those,
Mhm.
you know,
All right,
that
Brit.
is,
All right, you said it. You said it.
Why did you say that name?
yeah, that is where they try to catch up to Marvel. And again, that is just not the way to go. And it feels like that's what they're still continuing to do. And with comics right now, I mean, DC's all in. They are trying to, it feels like a DCU type thing. But, well, the DCYU thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and basically throwing stuff to the wall, seeing if it sticks. A lot of miniseries, but it's going to end up, going uh, leading to another event anyway. And they have to have new number ones again, reboot. Well, they won't fully reboot, but they will relaunch and reboot every 2 years or so because they
I'm
don't
sure.
have, yeah, they don't have a stable readership. And with Superman, I feel like they've exhausted a lot of things in trying to keep the status quo. But it's kind of like Superman and Wonder Woman basically are the main characters that need um, shakeups. You
And
know,
Luffy has the best comment. I'm all out on DC. This, I
that,
love that, Luffy. That's
yeah,
great.
that
Oh
is
yeah.
perfect.
But yeah, and I love how when Brit and I watched the announcement video for the All In universe, and they said it's gonna last like 5 to 10 years, we're like, it won't even last one. Watch, clip this, and then as soon as this is done, as soon as they try this and it doesn't work, it's good because here's the thing: Transformers is dramatically outselling them in terms of comics. Brit, the relaunch of Transformers, the first issue, I found out it's on its ninth printing.
Wow.
9, and it came out last year. It's a great series. I'm not disputing that at all. But Transformers is kicking DC Comics' ass.
Yeah. I mean, pretty much everyone is kicking their asses because I mean, like I said, DC is stuck on keeping the status quo and trying to basically paint over a fallen house. They're
Exactly.
they're not trying to actually do the repairs. They are just painting over everything.
Yeah.
And I would say that the only book that will kind of keep them afloat, even the main Batman book is kind of treading, but because Snyder, he is such a Batman fanboy, he actually, cares for the character. I would say that the transition, but absolute Batman will probably be the book that keeps them afloat.
Yeah. So speaking of afloat, then we have Wonder Woman's background of Themyscira. But I love this image of Themyscira where it in and of itself looks like Olympus. And
Yeah,
it's really it was where what like book was that from?
this was Phil Jimenez.
Okay.
yeah, I think they rebuilt, well,
Hmm.
the mascara. But yeah, I like the differences of how the mascara, the designs, because you can go um from this sort of scientific type, uh however this design is, where it can go, be transported to different places and stuff like that, or you can go with the mythical and just have them on an island, on land, but and you see that they have these mythical creatures, or doomsdoors, things like that. But just as Krypton, the mascara is has that advanced science, and we see glimpses of even Diana delving into science herself.
Hmm.
The
Healing ray.
yeah, the healing ray. The I would say that
Or according to Grant Morrison, the orgasm guns.
I, I was not trying to say that, but I was gonna say
I'm,
something much
when I
better.
heard that was actually going to be in there, I was like, that sounds like Grant Morrison.
Yeah, Jared, thank you for bringing that up.
I love how
Um,
Brit was trying to be delicate, but I'm like, no, orgasm guns.
um,
And when you see it actually in practice, it is just as cringy as that sounds.
yes, and the weaponry and everything like that. Um, and again, it's all about culture and
Oh,
Krypton too.
you'll love this. Here's another scene from Amazon Law from Amazon's Attack. There was this moment when the
Oh
president
my
was
God.
when like the statement is made in that book that the Amazons don't have access to technology, that they're just spears and catapults and stuff.
I mean, honestly, the way DC has kind of reduced the Amazons, yeah, I mean, you would think that that's all that they do have is they live in this.
I love whenever I say Amazon's Attack, Brit just goes,
I can't stand. I mean, I haven't even read it. I don't want to read it. I don't want to see anything of it. But just the way you describe it is terrible to
do
me. So
not read that book, Brit.
I
As a
will
Wonder
not.
Woman fan, it will infuriate you.
I will not. I will not. I mean, it's honestly the way you describe it, and you know how awful, Tom King run is. I would take Tom King's run over this.
Oh god. Honestly, yeah, you know what? I'd rather take the Tom King run over this because at least that
Yes.
has some good moments.
I mean, you
They're
probably have to.
rare, they're rare, but there are
That's
some
right.
good moments.
You probably need a magnifying glass to find those
I need
moments, but
one of those like glasses that the dentists have that has like the magnification in order to
yeah,
find the good moments, but it's there. But
exactly.
anyway, yeah, they have they have technology. It's just super advanced technology, like the healing ray, like the invisible jet.
Yes. Why? I mean, if they didn't have anything like that, how does Diana have an invisible jet? You know, those those are the kind of things that kind of fans want to forget, you know. Um, like I said, to reduce them. Even again, going back to Krypton real quick, how post crisis made it seem like this desolate, cold, um, robotic type place, just these aliens, um,
Yes, I hated that.
humanoid type that no emotions, and basically Clark has had to um have his emotions from being on Earth. I don't like that. I don't like how you again that it's just going by in reality of cultures. You know, if someone were to come from a different country to America, you're basically saying that America is the end all be all greatest. No. Um and but it's some instances where it shows that Krypton is very diverse. You know, it's not
Oh
just
yeah.
in how they have different uh skin tones, you know, even on Krypton. And that is how I see, if we ever, you know, write Krypton, that is how I see it,
I mean, in
envision
the
it.
show Krypton, Krypton had black people, so
Yeah, and
there you go. That show is actually really underrated. And by the way, Brit, so speaking of Krypton, I actually have, because I found at my local comic book store in the dollar bin, the first like bunch of issues of Action Comics New 52. That is just the Krypton stuff. So I have these.
yeah, and the way that Laura was also depicted too as a
Oh,
girl
yes.
and being
General
um
Laura.
and also dabbled in a little science too, it gave them more character. You know, and that's something that's really missing from Superman's stories and lore, period, because they want to again strip that all down just for him to be Americanized. You know, and it's just, but even when they kill off the Kents, you know, it's like, what's the point of propping them up to be the best parents when you kill them off anyway? You
Yeah,
know,
they're not going to be the best parents all that long. But yeah. And by the way, so the other thing, go up to this. I want to talk a little bit about Historia real quick because I really enjoyed that. But the thing that I didn't really like realize, I mean, I know it's one of those books where it's not canon, but it can be canon. But the thing I really liked about it is seeing how unique all the different Amazon tribes were. Like each one had their own queen and stuff, and the way that they were each like the way they differentiated each other from each other based on the goddess that was their patron.
hmm
And obviously the art was good, but I also liked the way, so they did the clay origin in that book obviously,
yes,
but it's an interesting way for like motivation, because there's this one Amazon that that like Hippolyta basically becomes the mother of. She dies, and then that kind of pushes Hippolyta to want to like to make Diana. I really when I was reading that, I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting.
you know what? That is so crazy because a lot of fans, Wonder Woman fans, are kind of speculating how Trinity comes about, and it's how Historia is basically influence a lot of Wonder Woman's lore right now, especially with Absolute Wonder Woman. That's
Mm-hmm.
um, Thompson said it's not canon, but if you read it, it's basically, you know, falls in line with it.
Which is why I
And
read
then,
it.
and with Tom King, there is how does the rogue Amazon that's pregnant goes basically what's her purpose? So I mean, Tom King has already thrown out there that Diana randomly asks Damien, will she be a great mother? Which again, this is Damien's recount. So it's not even really Diana. So it's kind
Well,
of
here's the thing. She does that in between trying to save people and making out with Steve Trevor. So you left
right.
out that
So
key
it's
detail there.
right. So it's really it's not even genuine to Diana. Like where in this has he shown that she wanted to be a mother? And for you to wait the very issue to show this, it just seems so um half-assed and so contrived. And that's pretty much why Wonder Woman fans and you know fans in general aren't resonated or aren't um caring for Trinity because she doesn't
Well,
have
in the additional part that she's written like an insufferable shrew, she's almost written like Lois Lane.
okay, I
I had
mean
to.
she's pretty much written like a brat though, like a teenage brat. And for you to stereotype, you know, teenage girls like that, I mean, he's basing John, Trinity, and Damien off of his kids. And I think he has two um older sons, and then the youngest is the daughter. And it's kind of like, okay, Tom King, you could have like had this story like as an Elseworlds, but not have your kids and whatever they do put it in comics. I mean, you can have that influence, but to actually write them and it's kind of insufferable with Trinity and at the expense
Makes
of
me think like you don't like your kids.
that, but it's also at the expense of Wonder Woman because we have not went into Diana's head in that way. When he went inside Diana's head, it was basically her eating a rat and talking to
Hmm.
Steve. So, but to actually think about her mother and motherhood and all of that and really um, elevate her character, we don't see that because you are having this narrative of the sovereign. So, honestly, with the sovereign being the narrator of this story, it really just feels like a whole big illusion and it's all a lie. And honestly, after this run, that's pretty
Hmm.
much what I'm gonna think of it as is that
I
this
got an
is just,
idea.
of course
No,
you did. I
no.
gotta say,
Not for our story.
oh,
So, what if the whole idea that is an unreliable? What if Trinity's not really Wonder Woman's daughter in any way, but it's a construct created by the Sovereign?
I mean, the, well, they did say that it's a,
That's
she's
what I would
not,
do.
he, um, well, it was a rumor or whatever leak that she's not adopted. She was born natural born for an Amazon, at least that's what it said.
That's what
And
makes me think they'll do the clay origin for Trinity.
but it's also kind of like, okay, so what's the purpose of Emily and why did you say that she was pregnant then? It just, it doesn't really make sense. And again, why didn't you focus on Emily? We are supposed to, I guess, care for this rogue Amazon. What is her story? We
Yeah,
have
we
not
we
seen
haven't
that.
seen anything about her period since issue. The last time we actually saw her was issues like I think 2 or 3, the same issue where Wonder Woman punched her mother in the face.
Yes.
I have to emphasize that because that was especially egregious. But anyway, moving on. So then we get to combining the super with the wonder. By the way, great titling, by the way. I love that.
Thank
And
you.
it's very interesting. So Brit, how do we merge these two?
Okay, so Clark, he's Diana. Okay, well, first with Diana, she is of old myth, of
Mhm.
the old Grecian gods and everything that comes with them. Clark, he's in the sense of the new gods. He's the, as Apollo would think of him as like a second rate, you know, and but with them both perceived as gods, but we know that they don't think of themselves as that way, that they come together though within that new perspective of godhood, from how the Grecian gods would act. Then you have the mystical, mythical, and the science part. Because again, Diana, she dabbles in science. Even in, I think it was issue 170, A Day in a Life, when Lois was interviewing her, Diana talked about she was working with John Henry Irons, So that is, again, a subtle way of saying that their families can come together for Diana to share her knowledge as an Amazonian with Clark, with the Kryptonian, and also uh, even with farming, with agriculture, and like how Daniel even said, the Amazons, I'm pretty sure they fished. They go out to the
Okay,
ocean.
here we go. So essentially, she was working with John Henry Irons to cure diabetes.
See, that is, even though, of course, in reality, that that is something that you can't actually have a cure for within a comic book. You can't make up, certain
Well,
things. But
yeah, but it was the idea that it can at least make something to make it more manageable.
exactly, but at least that is a that is something that Superman and Wonder Woman should be doing. They aren't they as their characters and who they're supposed to be, and bridging that type of um, betterment of the world and their jobs in a sense. Having them deal with quote unquote real world issues, yes, that is something that they should be dealing with. Even as Clark and Diana, as the reporter and the ambassador. Again, you don't. There's a line that go teeter with real world events, but Clark and Diana, as these powerful illegal immigrants, refugee, is supposed to piss off the government. They are, because they are fighting against the government's injustices. They are fighting for equality. They are fighting for just this cultural acceptance. And Clark using his words as putting out articles that makes people aware of different things, even in a galactical sense. He can still like write a story about maybe a planet or aliens. Even I would say, like at the end of War World, you know, I don't
Mm-hmm.
think he wrote a story about it. You did have the twins be adopted,
Mm-hmm.
but Philip Kennedy, he didn't do much afterwards. Like he really didn't show. He had to protest and something like that, but it really didn't dig deep in the effect of it. Especially with the twins, how they became more well adjusted as Americanized kids. Um, but having Clark actually write a story about that and really be self-aware of adoption, any kid, whether it is a child from another planet or on Earth, adopt a kid, because they need help. Um, Diana, the same way, she cares about kids. She cares about the health of kids. When again, 170 showing on how she sung an ill child while he was taking his last breath, things like that that she does. And she uses her words when she speaks uh, to the UN, you know, that
Mm-hmm.
comes together. Um, the farm and the island. Honestly, the difference with that is climate. And you have the the water more tropical, and then the farm is kind of dry, dirt and everything like that. But it's still the same thing of um, the horses, the livestock, them with how Diana loves to go running in the forest of Themyscira. She loves dealing with the animals, the deers. They pretty much transitioned. I think at first Themyscira only had like horses,
Mm-hmm.
but then they ended up having like sheep and
Kangaroos.
yeah, and other type of exotic animals. So that works hand in hand. So I think it was Cloonan that said, and I think this, well, I know it was a dig on Kingdom Come when she said that Diana wouldn't want to be on a farm. She would want to, um, like, continue adventuring and, like, go save Gotham or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Or go, no, go clean up Gotham. And it's kind of like, no, Diana, she could still go adventuring, but as a girl that grew up around nature, being on a farm is not going to bore her or anything like that. You know, she is going to feel more at home and even more at home. So
Mhm.
for anyone who says that Diana is from and she wants to be like this warrior and think that that's all that the Amazon did was learn how to fight. No, that's not all that they
It's a
did.
part of it, but it's not the whole thing.
Right. Um, the space and Earth, Clark, he's from space. I mean, even if you want to talk about the birthing matrix, I think, where I think Byrne, like, he wanted Clark to be actually born on American soil.
Super American. By the way, Cameron brings up an interesting point to add on to what Brit said. People forget that Diana's a nature girl and not a city girl.
Exactly.
There you go.
Exactly. Um, but I like that he is first born on Krypton, like to show the natural and also what people forget is that Clark was the natural born Kryptonian, like out of 1,000 years.
Yeah, the first natural born.
So with Diana, with her birth, it is kind of like mythical and scientific, and with being molded of clay, and she's, I would say that it still kind of combines, because her it's a natural birth still, because she is actually born of earth, you know and I think, um I don't know if I said this on one of the shows, but I know that I said it um maybe in a chat. But basically, Diana, in a sense, she speaks to the biblical um term of Adam, how, you know,
Okay. That's interesting. I never thought of that.
she is the she's actually born of earth's dirt, sand, or whatever.
Hmm.
And she is the purest of human.
Hmm.
So when people say that Diana isn't human, yes, she is. She
She
is.
literally is.
She literally is.
Arguably, she had the same birth as the first human.
Right. I I really don't know how. Again, it's all about understanding the the themes and the representation and the reading between the lines, in a sense. But I also blame the writers for kind of
Being too
like,
lazy.
yeah, and sweeping all of this under the rug, because when you actually dig deep into Clark and Diana's creation, there it's a lot of poetic themes within it, and that is very impactful. But they are lazy and don't want to explore it. Um, but um, we also have, what's mostly important is Clark being the child refugee and Diana being the young adult immigrant. And how that comes together is that Clark grew up in man's world, and he understood, you know, as an outsider, as someone who had to basically hide who he is, kind of out of fear, but also protection. Um, he grew up like that. So he conformed to that. He was conditioned that way as a child. With Diana, she grew up celebrating who she was, and she chose to leave her home and to explore the outside world, you know. So how they can bring that together is that Diana is teaching Clark as an adult himself, um, that it's okay to celebrate who you are, that you don't have to be in fear, that you can be a little bit more open. And then what Clark teaches Diana is that when it goes hand in hand of, okay, you can see the perspective of it's not out of fear, it is of protection. And then if you look at it in a celebrity sort of way, how celebrities kind of like they go in incognito type thing, or they, have this private life. It's not that you think you're above, it's just people see Superman and Wonder Woman and they think of them as celebrities. So they want to have that quiet, you know, private life that they can have outside of their heroics. And that's what New 52 gave. It's not them being above or anything like that, because we saw in Charles' book that Diana and Clark really just wanted to have a normal, quote unquote, date. And what was that? Going clubbing and dancing all night. How is that being above if that's what they wanted to do, was just go dancing?
But by the way, speaking of that, I want to shout out a YouTube video that we recently saw. All right, so someone took the first volume of Charles Sewell's book and basically made an audio drama of it that
Yes.
was announced last year, but they finally did it. Wow, really good. Anyway, more on that later. Actually, you know what? I will go ahead and pull that up on my phone just so I can shout out the channel, because they do great work on this.
Yeah, it
Yeah, go
really
ahead, Brit.
showed it really showed how we should have gotten an animated adaptation of Power Couple, you know, because that it really just showed the importance of Clark and Diana's relationship.
Okay.
Whether
It's called
mhm,
Wonder Woman and Superman Power, full motion comic by Revive Comics.
yeah. And Clark, the voice actor for Clark is really good.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah, go ahead.
oh, I skipped a couple. So the sun god and the moon goddess. Okay, so Diana, her name is based on a moon goddess, of course, and pretty much symbolizing it, the moon. And Clark, he is, like I said earlier, a to Apollo, pretty much this second rate sun god. And but of course, they don't think of themselves as gods, and they are pretty much the in between.
And
They
fun
aren't.
fact,
Mhm.
Diana, in terms of Roman mythology, is the Roman version of Artemis.
Oh yeah. See, this is not well. No, DC has not made that connection at all.
No, they haven't. They should, which is kind of funny. They kind of did, but in reverse, how Artemis became just another version of Diana, kind of.
Kind of. Yeah.
I mean, hell, she became Wonder Woman at one point.
Right. Um, oh, and the protector and warrior. And this is pretty much I would say this is kind of like a gender role reversal, that you would think that the man would be more of the fighter and the
Hmm.
woman, be the protector. But it's actually Clark is being more of the protector, and the one that kind of like the when they're on missions, I pretty much think that Clark will be the one to get everyone to safety and try to talk them into, um, that it will be okay. Diana will too, but she is the one that's more of the strategist that could really, being the fighter that she is, she knows how to, um, de-escalate the opponent, much
Well, not only
faster.
that, I would love if I wrote a Superman Wonder Woman comic and they were in a relationship. I would love. This is where I would write. Clark is like fighting, let's say, like Metallo or Zod or something like that. And Zod goes, "Do you think you could possibly stand up to me? I'm a trained Kryptonian warrior." And he goes, "I don't have to, but have you met my girlfriend?"
Right. It's just something like that. That Diana, this is where the warrior part comes from,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that it's not, she's not happy-go-lucky, uh, swinging a sword around. She can fight with her fists, or, you know, it's just that, like I said, she is the more trained fighter. And to see Diana train Clark, especially in Amazonian um, uh, combat, that I think really speaks again to the gender role reversal.
And
And
remember, in the Finch run for Wonder Woman in this era, there was a scene of them of
training
bow
with
staff
both
training.
staffs. Yeah. I mean, I would have loved to see more of that. And that's something, a thread that Charles um had. And for DC to cut all of that off at the kneecap because it succeeded expectations, and they, as Dan DeVito said, they were lazy and scared to take the risk and stuff like that. If you know that a certain concept is working and that,
If you're getting sales, here's the thing. Here's the thing. In retail, what normally happens is you don't get to tell the audience, no, you should like this. You find out what the audience likes of your product line, and you hammer that until it stops being profitable. And as far as I could tell from the sales figures that Brit and I always reference, this was dramatically like this book dramatically overperformed consistently to the point where I'm going to say it, DC were a bunch of morons for canceling this book because you see something that's working. That's the thing. It's not like this book flopped. It's not like the Snyderverse flopped up until when Zach was still there. When you take these two concepts, they were working, they were making you money, according to DC and WB themselves. You throw them out because of pride, because a bunch of, I'm going to say, Clovis fans that work at DC were like, no, this can't outperform the most iconic couple in comics.
but what's so funny is that it did outsell it, and
It
that
dramatically did.
and the fact that the book that they brought them back in sold like less than half.
Not even
Compared,
less than that. It was like
listen,
wait, first off, for a book that supposedly the entire fan base wanted, the number one issue should have been like at least up to the numbers of Superman Wonder Woman #1. It was 70,000 less. Excuse me if I'm not impressed.
right? I mean, that is embarrassing. That that is embarrassing to debut when this book was, at the time they stopped promoting Superman and Wonder Woman, and when they were promoted, they was only promoting as a potential breakup. But Dan Jurgens said that, oh, Chloe, Lois, and Clark are unbreakable. So you know that that was something, a dig at how they were treating Superman and Wonder Woman's book. And then you had Tomasi with the contrived drama. You had them, I mean, in the 5th volume is a power couple no more. Who wants to read that if they aren't a power couple? When that was the basis of the book. And but then they transitioned to saying that Lois and Clark are the original power couple when they were never called that. And to
Exactly. It's never part of their marketing. By the way, Barry Allen brings up a good point. See, it's weird because I heard a claim that while Superman and Wonder Woman sold, apparently the reviews said them being a couple was bad. No idea what these reviews were. Well, first off, these are people making up those reviews. So first off, there was that. But second off, here's the thing. Here's the way DC works that people forget. DC is a business. And the way DC actually works, from what I've heard, is that if a book comes out and it's hailed critically and commercial and fan wise, but it sells bad, they will view it as a failure. I mean, look at Woman of Tomorrow by Tom King. Until that was announced as part of the DCU, that book on its own without that DCU thing, it was in the dollar bin for years, and it never even got a hardcover collection until it was announced as a movie.
Exactly. That is honestly, that is the one thing that it's amazing, but at the same time, the revisionism is insane with that book. And acting like Tom King is like the greatest writer ever
No,
when
no,
when
no, 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 no.
when no one really paid attention to that book. Um and how the reviews have really turned around, but you can also see that even with the books that they have now and some reviewers, it's cool that you get exclusives, that you get early copies, but some of the reviewers are bigging up these books that don't deserve to be bigged up and giving them higher ratings on reviews to keep getting the exclusives, to keep getting the
Yeah,
early
because
copies.
apparently, from what I've heard, reviewers, in order to keep getting review copies, they're not allowed to give a book below a 7 out of 10.
And you can read like how a book, the way they review the book, it can be a negative review. Like they cannot like something, but they have to turn around and kind of sugarcoat it and put lots of sugar in that iced tea.
Yeah, I was about to make the reference, Britt. There you go. Thank you.
Yeah. And and
And,
then
yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, and then once they sugarcoat all that and is basically like, oh, I just read a bad review, you go down to the rating and it has like an 8 or a 9. It's like, wait a minute, but what I read does
But you
not
hate
match
the
that.
book.
Yeah,
What is with this? It's that's why I don't trust those comic book review sites. There are a few of them I do trust because the few of them are honest about the books. Like Weird Science, you can trust because they give the books actual like negative reviews, but they were bashing Tom King's Wonder Woman, and granted, DC stopped sending them review copies, but they kept going.
right.
So I'm like, okay, you
Mm-hmm.
know what? That's one of the few I trust. That's one of the very few I trust. And by the way, so as usual, 99% of the people who hate on Superman and Wonder Woman and claim Lois is unbeatable thing, people that don't even have each character as one of their faves. Yeah, exactly. Well, a lot of them are like Bruce Timm fans that think Wonder Woman belongs with Batman. Every time I hear the Clovis is better chemistry than Super Wonder, I'm convinced they don't read. True. Or the fact that they forget that I'm going to use this for ammunition from now on, Britt. The recent Action Comics issue basically painted Lois as unethical. Ha ha!
Yes.
There you go.
Yes.
More on that last week. So anyway, so now as Brit and I, in the tradition that Brit and I do, whenever we bring up, here's how DC should do things, we give them examples on how to do it. So here's our story pitch. So Brit, elaborate.
Okay, so I liked when Immortal Wonder Woman gave had Diana pretty much being the monologue, giving her the monologue. And I think that the story that really goes into their perspective of each other, it would be impactful. So this is split, I think, in 4 parts.
Mm-hmm.
And
F4.
the first part will be in third person, which is pretty much telling about Clark and Diana's history and why they are. And it's not so much as falling into the romantic part, but what's more important is their friendship and partnership and how they come together in that important way of the refugee, the immigrant, the island girl, farm boy, the reporter, the ambassador, just things like that. How do all of that connect as one? And how you can, put that together to make this big story and what is the purpose of it?
Mm-hmm.
And show that they are truly the um, two sides of the same coin. Then
what you could do with this is you could make this part one, like say 3 or 4 issues, and each issue is by a character, is from the perspective of a character that knows them. Like one issue can be Batman, one issue can be Mira, one issue can be, let's say, Julia. Yes, I bring up those characters because Julia and Vanessa, it is criminal how they don't show up in Wonder Woman books anymore.
And I can't believe that, again, Tom King have like this one-sided beef or this competition he made up in his head, thinking that Perez challenged him, whatever he thinks, but yet you're basically doing the total opposite of what his run
If anything,
was.
you're sugar honey iced teaing on his run. I have to say that.
Yeah. And you know, Jerry, you say you're pouring the sugar honey iced tea.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
I love how that's become a thing for comics.
Yeah, because we're trying to keep it PG-13, you know.
Yeah, so it's the things we do for YouTube, but even with this, because that way you could have like, because I would love for like one issue, Batman's narration is, "My friends are blind," and they say, but what I mean by that is they clearly have feelings for each other but don't see it, and this is coming from the world's greatest detective.
Right. So basically, Bruce is gonna be like poetic and like a hopeless romantic for his friends. That would be nice.
Yeah,
and then he will say
Mira
something about Selena.
Yeah, exactly. And you could have someone chime in and go, "Wait, Bruce, you're talking about? Oh, wait, it's Damien, father, but you're pointing out about how they clearly love each other but don't see it. What about you and Selena?" And then Bruce goes, "Shouldn't you be doing your homework?"
And then he'll say, "Oh wait, aren't you like talking to mom again or something like that?"
Yes, but yeah, and you can have like Mira talk about like who Diana is as a person, who Clark is as a person. Then you can have like, let's say, Julia can talk about the way you could do Julia's issue is frame it around a time that like Diana brought Clark over for dinner, a friendly dinner, but even then Julia could see that like that there was something buried under the surface.
That would honestly be so cute. As like especially the early days of like the Perez run, you know, how Diana was young and having these building her friendships and stuff, and then to see Clark, I think because she did want him to go to the mascara, I think. So for him to kind of like have a write up on Diana and have dinner with Julia and Vanessa pretty much like a little sister teasing, and it's kind of like you know, her making kissy faces or something like that.
Yeah, she definitely would. And she walks into the kitchen as Diana and Julia are like making dinner, and goes, "Oh, Diana, I saw you brought your boyfriend."
Yeah.
And then and then Diana's like, "Shut up, he's in the other room." And of course, Clark has super hearing, so he hears that, and you just see him with a big grin on his face.
Yeah, that would be so cute. It would be much better than Byrne messing up their first date with an awkward "you're out of my league"
with like a kiss out of nowhere where he just kissed him. Like, Clark would not do that.
But the thing is, what's crazy is that was pretty much a bait and switch of how like when it first happened, it seemed consensual, you know, it seemed very like mutual. And then you go off with Diana having like her, you know, eyes wide and kind of just it's this awkward thing. And it's like, no, why would you make it like that? Why would you you can have them, which is very human, quote unquote, of them nervous, of them kind of stumbling and stuff like that. But to make it so awkward where it's kind of like, yeah, Clark, you're acting a little creepy. Get away from her. That is something that no, you don't mess up that type of
And this
relationship
is
like
someone that
that.
everyone says wrote the definitive Superman. Isn't that funny? He wrote Superman as someone that makes out with 14-year-old girls. I have to bring that up whenever you bring up John Byrne. And
Amen.
crosses certain boundaries with Amazons. That's yeah, really good. But anyway, so then we get to part 2. So part 2 is Clark's POV. Elaborate.
And well, with him, he basically is telling his feelings of Diana, but it progresses from when he first meets her, how she looks, how she talks, and who she is to him as a friend first, and this person that he can be open with, even whether he is Clark Kent or Cal or Superman, he can be open with her and can learn from her. Then it evolves, over the course of however many issues of him realizing that he's falling in love with her. And he's not falling in love with just her beauty or anything like that. He's falling in love with her heart and falling in love with the woman that has truly inspired him to be an all-rounded person, you know, and just seeing her every day of celebrating her culture and being around other people, but being herself, And I like that she had an open identity. I do like that
Mhm.
because Diana actually does stand for truth. When you are for truth, you don't have a secret identity. And Clark, he can have it for a certain amount of time, but after a while, yeah, it's time for him to be
And when you think
um
about it, if he revealed his secret identity, it would make more sense that no one would do anything if he's married to Diana, because no one wants to piss off Wonder Woman.
it would
Because
make sense.
yeah, because it's like, let's say a random terrorist that Superman foiled once is like, okay, I would try something, but then I have an Amazonian sword flying at me, and I kind of would like to live.
And that's what I mean when I say like he doesn't have to be shackled basically
Hmm.
to the Daily Planet anymore. You know,
No, he doesn't.
he can be a freelancer, so you don't have to really worry about the Daily Planet or anyone like that. Yeah, sure, it will be kind of Jimmy and uh, Cat and Lois in the crossfire a little bit, but his connection still just isn't so um, ingrained within them though. Especially with being married to Lois, it just feels like, yeah, that is a huge target. And that's pretty much why they backed away
Yeah,
from
because
him
here's the
having an
thing.
open.
It's not like He Who Must Not Be Named revealing the identity wasn't a good idea. It could have worked, but you have to have something. Show me consequences.
Right.
You didn't even have to kill Lois. Just have someone try to.
Yeah. Instead, he wanted to be like Clark is what he called it coming out the closet, which is still no.
That's kind of
Um,
insulting to people that come out of the closet. So
and he wanted to be where everyone, because he is Superman, that they so easily um accepted it. It's like, no, you still show the
that's not the way that
consequences.
would happen. That's not
Yeah,
the way that would happen. It's like here's the thing, Britt. Whenever He Who Must Not Be Named tries to do this stuff for people, it ends up blowing up in his face. So the reason why he created a lot of African American characters during his time at Marvel and DC is because he wanted his adopted daughters to have characters to look up to. I think they're adopted. The point is he wanted his daughters to have characters that look like them to look up to. That's fine. That is very honorable. The problem is those characters were written in such a way that they didn't catch on, that they were bashed and didn't catch on until he was off those books.
that, and he wanted to, like when he called John biracial, in a sense of like,
Yeah, I get what he's saying, but, or it's like, so do you know how Bobby Drake of the Iceman came out as bi or gay?
yes, it
Yeah,
was he.
yeah, exactly. That's when it's like, what? I
Yeah,
get what you're going for, dude. That's not the way to do it.
right. With saying that John is no, that definitely not in a sense of what you were going for. He does not have the biracial experience. No, he does
No,
not.
no,
So,
no. The only time that could possibly work is if we're talking about My Adventures with Superman, but no one ever talks about that show. So there you go. I
so,
had to bring in that dig.
um, so with yeah, so with the identity, it's again
Ooh,
Diana. She is
the conclusion for this 4 issue arc is like the last page is him trying to psych himself up to tell Diana how he feels about her.
of
It's like
course.
him in the mirror trying to like he's like, be strong, Clark, you're freaking Superman, you could do this.
Yeah, but I mean, honestly, he would be nervous, but he would definitely have New 52 like go-getter mentality
Yeah.
and not the post-crisis belittling myself and
Well, yeah, because
wimping
he
out.
has the attention of an Amazon at this point. He's like, he could have it where he psychs himself. He feels he's like, what am I nervous for? I practically have on my arm an Amazon princess who is my best friend. I think I'm gonna be fine. And then the comic ends.
That is beautiful.
And
And
then here's
um
my idea here: the Wonder Woman portion of this, because I know Diana's on the next slide. The last slide is her walking. Is basically the immediate prequel to that Superman part, and it's her thinking about how she feels about Clark and wondering if he's ever going to tell her how he feels about her. So that way they kind of bookend each other.
that is so neat. You see that that is why I love collaborating with you, because you can definitely hit the right notes and transitions and the ideas. And yeah, probably gonna have like 5 million cat gifs
I
by
do
the end.
have 4 ideas, by the way, on my phone right about now.
I figured, I figured.
The hilarious part is when they're based on stuff that you legit say. So it's like you're digging your own grave.
Exactly. I need to stop talking because but before you change the slide,
Yeah.
this cover basically shows again the gender, and that's what Tony wanted, is
Yeah.
to show how Clark and Diana are, can reverse roles, how
Mhm.
she's lifting up the tank or whatever that is, and Clark is the one blocking
I
the.
think that's a redo of a new 52 cover, if I remember correctly.
I think so, but that's his intentions were for them to
Hmm.
um change roles, and I
Hmm.
think that that really again speaks to their relationship, that they can do that
Hmm.
when um having a conversation of kind of like how can Lois and Clark complement each other or whatever. It's always that Lois has to be better at something, being a better reporter, while I don't really agree with that. I mean, it's her thing, but Clark is a writer himself. He went to school for it. He has that passion. So I don't really care for the better part, because and he has the intelligence to be better anyway in anything. So um with Clark and Diana though, they're both their relationship was created to show equality. And with being it speaks to being a power couple too, because it's supposed to be, we're both at 100%, and but we still
Yeah,
have our
they
own
are equal. You don't need one to be better than the other
better.
at all.
That's not, and the thing is, that's not feminism. It's
No.
it's feminism is about gender equality. It's not being better
And that's
one
what
over the
Diana
other.
wants. That's the thing. It's like Lois has to be like, even now, she has to be like the head of the Daily Planet talking down to Clark and accusing him of being too close to a story. And I'm like, hey, Pot, I believe you have a kettle to call black right about now.
Exactly.
I'm like,
That
why are you saying this of all people?
and then the fact that the intern who had the story and she recused herself and said that, because Superman saved her. And so Lois and Clark were joking and saying, "Oh, what if I recused myself when you saved me? We wouldn't have fallen in love and I wouldn't have gotten a Pulitzer."
I know,
It's like,
thank you. So apparently she's a crappy journalist then.
yeah, is so yeah, you're definitely showing of being unethical and saying how this is love. No, you're for any Lois fans to say that Lois is independent, for her to be this female empowerment. No, her whole story revolves around Superman. She's getting superpowers and becoming Superwoman. And
She's wearing the House of Al crest.
I mean, and when the first cover came out, and I've seen even other posts, they asked, "Who is this new Supergirl?" And I'm kind of like,
Can I be honest with you? My first thought was they aged up the female twin from Warworld. So I was like, oh no, they're doing it again.
Jared, no, you thought that was,
I
oh my
legit
God, that's
thought
even
that.
worse.
I was like, wait. In my defense, Brit, DC repeats the same mistake over and over again. Can you blame me?
I don't, but that is
I was
hilarious.
legit like, oh god damn it, DC, did you do this again? And then when it started to look more, and then when they said it was Lois, I'm like, actually, you are repeating the same mistake because in Rebirth, you gave her superpowers. They call her Superwoman.
Right. But I mean, honestly, that does make it worse because I have seen people think that that was like a future daughter. So, yeah,
Oh
that
god,
for
no one
anyone to,
call John Byrne. I'm sure he'd love to write that book.
so for anyone to basically say that like Clark and Diana are siblings or incest or whatever, and I know that there is this one fan who really makes those jokes a lot about them being from the South, or something about playing banjos or whatever. And I'm kind of like, that's exactly what this is with Lois wearing like the exact same colors and like she looks like a Supergirl,
She's
and
wearing the costume that Laura Kent had in Injustice in that one in that one dream sequence.
but she's also one of my friend pointed out that she looks based off of Sasha Kaye.
Yeah, she's Sasha Kaye with long hair, which again that was Clark's cousin. So,
So for the Clovis fans that talk about Superman and Wonder Woman, yeah, where's your banjos?
it's gonna last an arc. It's not gonna be a big thing, but even I'm like, they might try it. But anyway, so next slide. Diana's perspective. And again, this ends as she's walking to his apartment, so you bookend it.
So with this, you are starting to have, like you said, Diana's perspective, and for her, now we are seeing her understanding why he hides himself, and it's not. It was the question that she had in the first issue of Superman and Wonder Woman when she was thinking that he's ashamed of their relationship and ashamed of his culture because she didn't understand, why do you have a secret identity? And she feels like that is a lie. You are living a lie. And technically you are. It's lies of omission. And I don't like how he who shall not be named even tried to put that on Diana, of like when he was trying to do the contrived drama. Clark he has, you know, lived lives of omission for decades. Even when dating Lois and when they were engaged or before they got engaged, he still did not tell her his secret identity. And it made Lois look very dumb, even in the animated
Even
Death of
more so
Superman,
than she actually is as a character. But go on.
that she didn't know his secret identity. So you're telling me that she never saw him take off his glasses if they were so close?
Brit, I'm Superman.
you know,
That's
and
the most, at least in the Reeves movies, he did feats that pointed to him being Superman.
and then you have where not only that is that it's not like some fans like I said, the whole mental gymnastics of, oh, the glasses that he wears changes his eye color, or it changes his face, or it gives other people illusions or something like that. I'm like, no, if that's not said within the books or shown or anything, you're just making stuff up to try to make this make sense. And it doesn't. So, no, we're not going with that. You're basically writing Lois as dumb. And it shows how their relationship isn't all that trusting or isn't that close if, again, she's never seen him with his glasses off, or
Or here's the thing, she's this fantastic journalist. She never thought it was weird that Clark Kent always vanishes when Superman shows up. You're
yeah,
the best journalist. Put this together.
no, for the sake of the plot, no, they won't do that. um
They never will. And here's the thing. Again, say what you want about Zack Snyder, but he had Lois find out he's Superman in the first movie.
um and going back to Diana,
Mm-hmm.
with because Clark see he's shown how she loves her um culture. He is more inspired to now not be afraid to dig into um, Krypton, because just as uh, Krypton has, dangerous, it's a little dangerous, it's dramatic, it's tragic. The mascara is the same way, with the gods and the history of the Amazons, the abuse that they've dealt with, the why they have secluded themselves and everything like that. And once Diana learns that, she again is empowered by her sisters, though. They are still strong. And with Clark, it's the same way. It's that he is the one to keep Krypton's legacy, the good and the bad, keep it alive and learn from the bad, and and just keep that, but know the good and emphasize on that. So that
Yeah,
is what
that's called actual patriotism.
but and Diana, like I said, with the celebrity, you can think of it as more of a celebrity thing, that it's not putting on a mask to lie to people in a sense of being ashamed of yourself. It's more so just a privacy thing. So you really just explore how it can kind of like it's like walking a tightrope, but at the same time you can still know the difference. And Diana
Exactly.
truly begins to understand that, and that's why she sort of takes on that sort of lifestyle of wanting a little bit of privacy herself.
Yeah.
And she also understands, and again, you are exploring their perspective as Diana choosing her to leave her home and explore the world as an immigrant, and as a refugee. Clark didn't have the choice. So you're pretty much telling the difference between what is an immigrant and what is a refugee.
Yeah. So, and by the way, Luffy brings up a good point. He says that's the whole point of Clovis, Brit. Everything about it is fueled by headcanon. That is true.
Yeah.
So then we get to part 4.
So right here is basically putting everything together of how they are now, um, everything that they've seen and learned from each other, they're now putting it all into action. So we have Clark um, where he is ready to tell the world his identity, and he is again more open and more free to be the global correspondent, to be able to go out in, like I said, even beyond Earth.
What you could do is have it where it's a press conference and Wonder Woman is right next to him, and we do the Tom King thing where she puts her hand on his shoulder.
The only thing that Tom King, gave that was right.
Yeah, right there, and it's like she's showing her sound support. Exactly. That was like the one thing where I'm like, that's like finding a speckle of a gold nugget in a pile of crap.
Oh, can you go back to the last slide?
Yeah. Here you go.
Okay. So I wanted to talk about the Kingdom Come images.
Yeah.
Okay, so how like perfect kind of they look as a older couple, but you have Diana wearing, a tunic of sorts, and Clark he has like the basic uh flannel shirt, but you give that image of the farmer and the island girl, that really, to me, as you know, in an artistic type of way, it might have not been intentional, but if it was, that really shows how perfect in a way that they come together.
Yeah,
exactly. At least for me.
Exactly. So then we get to, and then by the way, the last image of the entire story is basically the Conrad's version of being subtle story right here of him. The last line is "There's so much beauty." Yeah, because I'm sorry, because that the way he's holding and staring into her face as he says "so much beauty," that is the opposite of subtle, bro.
Right. When we always say this, but when Bertel posted that, at first it was people were in denial and they were thinking that, oh, that's like for a commission. But then when it was kind of like she didn't really say too much, but when it was, kind of like, oh, figured out that it was for an upcoming comic, it was like, oh, wait, like they are a couple again, So she had to go back and say,
after getting death threats, let's be clear on that.
Yeah, that I got paid for this. I'm just doing my job or whatever, and it is what it is. But honestly,
I love where she actually said, if you get this pissed off about fictional characters like this, I'm sorry, she basically said you need new priorities.
Grass. Yeah, I think she actually did say something about touching grass too. You need to go outside, go do something, yeah. But it really showed how, this is in no way subtle or friends or being siblings or whatever like that.
But Brit, I assure you, Clark knows a thing or two about getting his hands dirty.
Quiet. Yeah.
It's just so good.
I would say that, definitely unfortunately, if DC is that dumb, to not have him come back in, that Conrad, I give him two thumbs up to give us a Superman and Wonder Woman story. I think that he has the potential to do so.
I would say that. I think he can, based upon the Superman Wonder Woman interactions I've seen. Now, the thing is, assuming Cloonan is involved. Hopefully not, because I don't want Diana being portrayed as a party girl.
Yeah. I mean, we want Diana to have personality, but not the unrecognizable, reckless type.
Not she wants to be in a 3-way relationship with some dude from Valhalla and Steve Trevor.
Yeah. And Steve is still not interesting, even if you try to give him something like that. But going back to this, like we said, with the technology of Themyscira and Krypton, like I said, you can't really just say that you found a cure for diseases and stuff, but it's the fact of still kind of subtly, having that plot of looking for one or trying to, do these different experiments together and stuff like that. Or you can make up some type of something of an illness, and they do, combine Krypton and Themyscira technology and create a cure for it, or just something unique. It doesn't have to be an illness. It can be some type of just an invention or something like that. And also just them understanding that, like they said, they aren't gods, but they aren't mortal. They are the in-between of both worlds. And they are the bridges that bring it all together in a very unique way. So with that, that's who they are, and that should be their role, even within DC now. But of course, they have Clark and Diana, or Clark choosing one over the other, which no, that to me is limiting to the story potential that they have.
Okay, so now we get to get to the slide that I hyped up in the beginning. And okay, they finally killed Steve Trevor, and I love how I put yay. But I'm gonna give you, this is an accurate representation of how I reacted when you sent me this page, Brit. I love, so Britt and I are in a group chat with Jid, and as soon as Jid was pissed, Britt was like, okay. Me, I was like, yes!
I mean,
I was the only one, because here's what you guys have to understand. This is not the Perez Steve Trevor. That version died with Flashpoint. This is the Stalker version.
I mean, yeah, this is the version that is he guilt tripped Diana into, because she wasn't with him, it was a bad thing. Of course, he was a projection of the writer, Rucka, but he was also like the jealous ex as well, even with Jeff Johns. And Diana being so young and not understanding relationships and really trying to force her into this, like, Steve to me is not the end all be all. He's not the end game. Yes, he is a love interest, the first love interest, but not the only love interest. I just think that Diana being, in terms of turning into a Disney princess, again, it limits the story. And Steve, and that's something that me and Jid agrees on. He's the representation of, when he's written correctly, as how Perez presented him, as like the goodness of mortal men, and he can be written this way even as a father, big brother figure for Diana. That how the Amazons perceived mortal men, as just as evil as male gods. He shows that no, there has been changes within over the decades, and there are men that can be good. And Clark, he represents the men of power or with power. So he represents the God perspective of that. That just because a man has powers or of power, he can be humble, he can be kind, he can be respectful and honorable. I see Steve as um, Diana's, like I said, first experience and her Lana Lang. And they can, whether if they do have a relationship, it doesn't really last long, maybe a year or so. But Diana realizes that, okay, I'm kind of, you know, trying to move on and explore just herself as building herself as a hero and who she and her mission. And then, but also, I really lean more on Perez, where he makes him as the protective big brother, and he calls
Yeah,
Diana.
that's better. That
And
instead of like him being the emotionally manipulative a-hole that he was, particularly of recent years, like when I reference the page all the time, where Aphrodite dies and Steve breaks up with her and goes, I can't put so much of myself in this relationship if I get so little in return. And I'm like, hey, a-hole, you're a SEAL. If anyone understands or should understand the importance of putting your own personal life on hold in order to save lives, it's you.
he should, but
And wait, what did you think was gonna happen dating Wonder Woman?
right. And then the fact of, because they didn't have anything else for Steve and how they want him to be within the book, is that it's like he has to be the love interest. And that's the thing that Tom King is trying to force within 3 issues out of 13 or 14. Is issue 9 came out of nowhere. No, it was first issue 8 of how Steve was used as the nightmare, or with the lasso of lies of Diana turning into a housewife. And then it's kind of like saying that she doesn't want that. She doesn't want to become a housewife or anything like that. But yet you're still trying to force her to be in love with him. And how Steve, they really haven't had any type of conversation, a mature conversation with the, as having a relationship. Issue 2, how Steve cussed at Diana. And I think it was, I want to say issue 3, when Diana was being condescending about Steve. It just seems like their relationship it doesn't make sense, and it's not very loving at all, the way he tried to portray it, or whatever he tried to do within issue 13 of having Diana, you're in the middle of a battle. You're in the middle of the world, burning from Amanda Waller. People have lost their powers. People are imprisoned. And you're focused on, and you have a 14-year-old, Damien, who basically takes over Wonder Woman's book because Tom King wants to write her as a damsel in distress for Steve and
literally because she deflects bullets. I didn't even see her get shot. That's the interesting thing about that page, because she, as far as I know, she dodged the bullets, then she just collapses, and I'm like,
it's
like she's like, I'm deflecting. Okay, I did it. Oh.
Yeah, but the thing is, Diana is an Amazon still. And her whole purpose is that whether she has powers or not, she is supposed to have the strength and the endurance. So for her to collapse or whatever,
and not only that, Brit, what was the final challenge to become Wonder Woman?
It was to deflect bullets.
Literally to deflect bullets. They call it bullets and bracelets.
So yeah, it's you pretty much have.
You supposedly read a bunch of Wonder Woman comics before you started your run.
You know what? I didn't even think that really in that
He claims he
depth.
read like a bunch of stuff, including the Perez stuff, and I'm like, then why are you crapping on it?
So basically, yeah. So Diana, yeah, you know what? To really think of that now makes that issue so much more awful.
Oh, you mean the punching of the mother?
Well, everything, but I'm talking about issue
Everything.
13.
Okay,
Because,
I'm confused because all of this is awful, but go
yeah, all
on.
of it's awful. Because now it just makes it like Diana is her powers. That if she doesn't have her powers, she does rely on Steve. You know, she does.
Again, I am convinced Tom King wanted to really write a Steve Trevor book, but knew he couldn't because no one would buy a Steve Trevor book. So he's like, I'll write a Wonder Woman book, mostly about Steve.
He wanted to write. He probably did want to write a Steve Trevor book because he, in one of his earlier interviews, he said he likes Steve because he's in the military. So he just felt, and like you've said, that he basically self-inserted himself as Steve. Um, and then he wanted to write the Super Sons because he wanted the Super Sons to babysit uh, Barda and Scott's kid, their son that he created, Jack. Then he wanted to, of course, he has this thing of Diana comparing herself to Batman and Superman as because of the Trinity, but it's kind of like again, um, as the new JSA writer said, the JSA is more of a family, and they are more into the whole, legacy thing. But the difference between the JSA and the JLA is they are more just a team up. And even with the Trinity, Diana is always portrayed as like the third wheel of the world finest. And they have a book, Bruce and Clark. And their first mission, sure, it was on Themyscira and it was, okay for what it was, but it's still kind of like it was still a world's finest, story. And you don't have those relationships really connecting. Even when Tom King tried to have this supposedly deep dive of Clark and Diana's relationship as friends for to pick out a
It was
gift for
all still
Bruce.
about Batman.
It was still about Batman. You didn't do the deep dive. Like I always say, he didn't even put a pinky toe in a water bottle cap.
No, here's his deep dive. You know how like when you fill up a pool or a bathtub full of water and you want to check the temperature with your foot? That's the extent.
It's not. It's kind of like your toenail or something. That
Yeah,
was
it's the most superficial like deep dive I have ever seen.
yeah. It was really nothing to write home about at all. It and for it to be
But
some
at
type of
least he
special.
didn't severely screw it up or like retcon in some BS.
He didn't. I mean, okay, honestly, I would take that over the retcon BS that we've already dealt with. However, it's still kind of like pointless that it was just a toenail, you know. Yeah, that is very much a double-edged sword situation, but I would rather have the toenail than the retcon BS. Um, but yeah, so with going back with Steve and this whole thing, it just feels like how he's trying to make sense of Trinity. And again, her name is Trinity, which you can't market that because everyone is going to think of the Trinity: Superman, Wonder Woman and Batman.
It's
And
almost like a certain handsome YouTuber came up with a way better name.
yeah, you did.
I had to. That's what Brit and I. In case you're wondering about where Brit and I get a lot of our ideas, it's fixing DC's mistakes.
Yes. Honestly, the Shelterverse is basically fixing all of DC's terrible stories.
Mm-hmm.
And with the Trinity, like I said, they aren't a family. You know, um, you don't see Clark and Diana really interacting. They haven't had very much an impactful um, friendship since Rebirth. Uh, Diana and Bruce, they really don't have any a relationship because Clark is their connection.
Mm-hmm.
So how can you say that John and Damien are Trinity's, Lizzie's brothers or whatever like that when John and Damien really haven't interacted with Diana, especially
No,
John.
they
And
haven't.
even with Diana interacting with Damien now, again, it just seems very contrived. And
Well, I think what it is like he's like, okay, I gotta have her interact with one of the Super Sons. Okay, I'll do is I'll waste a tie-in in order to force that in instead of doing how does Wonder Woman react in Absolute Power, which could have been cool.
yeah, we really don't even have Diana's reaction to anything. You know, we don't have her actually, and that's the thing. These writers aren't getting into Diana's head. And again, the only thing that Tom King got into Diana's head about was Steve. But we haven't really gotten into just Diana's perspective because her book is basically the perspective of the Sovereign. So, you know, it's really, she's just a set piece. And that's,
She's a secondary character slash she's a plot device in her own book. How's that?
yeah, that is honestly terrible. So, and going back to Trinity's, well, Lizzie's name, her name is Elizabeth Marston Prince. And honestly, how does she get the name Marston?
Or
I,
Elizabeth?
or even, yeah, even Elizabeth. Uh, Diana would not name her child Elizabeth or Lizzie. I just think that it's so, like, Diana would have her child's name if she were to have a daughter, um, more Grecian, you know. Even Hunter. Hunter, basically, if you want to um, go with that, that is more like of Artemis, you know, the goddess of the hunt. You know, so you know Hunter. That works. But naming her Elizabeth, I just don't know where that comes from. And it sounds, again, very Americanized or um, very uh, British in a sense. And it's kind of like, no, Diana is she, we have not seen her explore the world. We have not seen her even connect with other characters, especially female characters, to have that name. And then Marston, very meta, you know, but where did that name come from? Why, you know, why did you pick that name? You have to have a reason why you have a name, not just for meta reasons. And then Prince. Diana doesn't have the Prince last name. Um, that
Because
was
as far as I know, she doesn't have a secret identity in this current continuity.
right. That was a new 52 thing. So
Mm-hmm.
Prince still does not make sense. Her name, and even still, uh, King just throwing something out there because Diana, when she was in issue 13, she called herself Diana Prince instead of Diana of Themyscira. And it's kind of like, no, King, you don't read because Diana is not Diana Prince. Honestly, even when we write Diana having the Prince, last name in our stories, it's still, of course, she has it, as an ambassador, and they call her Ambassador Prince or something like that. But she's still Diana of the Mascara, though. That is her name, and especially when we have her with an open identity. And like I said, the Prince is always of that incognito type scenario. But having that as her introduction to who she is, no, you are doing it all wrong. And I did see a comment that said that Tom King loves the Bronze Age or, Silver Age of stuff. It's kind of like, yeah. And the thing is, Tom King doesn't know how to write. First of all, half of those eras for Wonder Woman, or majority,
Very problematic.
very, and it really based off Steve. So you're going back to very problematic eras that were trouble with Steve, and bringing that back. That is not how you write the character in modern day.
Exactly. And really, I remember, I like how these writers always cling to the continuities that needed a reboot. That's my favorite, favorite thing. But anyway, I think that's a good place to leave this episode. This is a fun one. Next week, actually, I want to tease up the next week. So next week's episode is going to be. I'm pulling up our schedule. It should be. Hang on. Man, we have a long chat.
That is why we have.
It's mostly you crying, but okay. Okay, here we go.
Quiet.
Yeah, so we're going to be discussing. So, back in the day when we did the discussion a couple of months ago about the similarities between Clark and Diana's relationship and Arthur and Mara. So we're going to do that, but with Hal and Carol. So it's going to be me. I get to geek out about Green Lantern more with Brit. So there you go.
And it's already that best friends, but Hal and Carol, childhood best friends, Clark and Diana, adult best friends. So that's already a good exploration and how that those type of relationships work.
Yeah, exactly. And I get to really tell you about the new Green Lantern run because it's stupendous. It's that good. So on that note, unless anyone has any concluding questions for us, Britt, why don't you tease the audience about all the different stories we got going?
Okay. Yeah, we have. Okay, you want me to tease all the stories? That would be like a whole nother 5
That's a whole
hours.
other story. You know what I mean, Britt.
Okay. So you finally have chapter 2.
Mm-hmm. Finally.
See, I knew you was gonna say something shady. I'm really excited for us to upload this. Like I already told you, you gotta make sure those final, I's are dotted and T's are crossed. But yeah, that chapter 2 of the first story of Shelter is complete. Starting chapter 3, I have my story with Jid, that chapter 2, which is really laid back, but also bringing in the Kents and how they see Diana, and that story of still how the world sees Wonder Woman and her impact on feminism, her impact on female empowerment, and what does it mean when you have pretty much how, like, Lois and Clovis fans, the understanding of what feminism means, and equality, and uh, you know embracing yourself as a woman. Then I have more one shots, especially bringing back Austria, and just updating stories that I have neglected for some months or so. And yeah, sending more crying gifs to Jared because he's about to send me probably about 7 more story ideas. But I can't wait for us to really, like I said, story 3 was my favorite and number one, but this new story with our OC, like, I love this story. I really do, because it, like I told you, the visual that I have in my mind of her character and just her journey really um speaks to how we are dealing with Clark and Diana's relationship, and how Shelterverse is the multiverse for the Super Wonder relationship. And I'm also doing a we are doing a rewrite of the Crisis films, or Tomorrowverse. So that will be fun as well.
Exactly. So stay heroic, everyone. Remember, Lois Lane is Lois Lane. She belongs to General Zod. Zois and Max about for life. Oh, and she is very unethical. I have to add in that. I have to figure out a way to have that flow. So stay and Zois and Max about for life. We'll see you later.